Why did it just pop up as reconnection successful? What was that? I am live. The last episode I didn't autosave to Twitch. It like made me publish it. And that was a few days ago. And I hadn't thought about it since just now. Hopefully everything's good. 204 episodes, I've never had an issue. Like a technical issue live. See how that goes. Hello, Cactus. Not live for you? That's concerning. I believe it's live now. I don't know if I'm... Apparently it's live for Twitch. Okay, it's live. That's gonna suck if that's a reoccurring thing, but I don't know what that is. Still not live for you? I guess you can't even hear me say that. I don't know what to tell you. Live for me. Morning. Is the stream live for all of you? Epic Pikachu saying it's not. Had this awkward restart in the middle of it there, but it seems to be. Morning, Falco. Just for you, fair enough. You're the only one I care about, let's be rude. What is this music? Lily. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you are posing for a drip pick in the middle of your match that is on stream, hoping the new tourney manager will include a waterfall format, attempting to play 3 rescheduled Ludi matches in one weekend. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Happy Veterans Day. I guess specifically for the United States of America, but that kind of goes, I'd say, veterans across the entire planet Earth. Uh, Happy Veterans Day to you. Also, happy beginning of the Plus server voting. This is the most interesting Plus server voting to take place ever because it is the first time where you need at least 60% to pass. And also, apparently, the voting updates are live. So, like, if you, I guess if you dip below the 60% or whatever, you'll get taken out. Like, you can see how you're going up and down. I don't know if that's intentional or a glitch or what, but that was something everyone seemed to be noticing today. So it'll be a real interesting Monday, I believe, is when the voting concludes for that thing. So if you're going out for a Plus server, good luck to you. You're going to need it. Although you did have your opportunities. You could have just played Send Out Q and proven that you were good enough by getting enough points in that thing or the top percentage or whatever. But you at least had an opportunity to earn your way in. If you needed to be voted in, we'll find out how many friends you got. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the Popcast here on a Friday. Registration for 20XX is still live. I believe it ends at, for my local time, I believe it's 1 in the morning. So, if you're watching this in the future, you can't sign up. But if you're still wanting to play in this one, this is the time to sign up or to finish getting your rosters put together. I'm looking at 67 teams that have signed up for this event, and that includes teams that have not finished all the way around as far as like completed their roster. But again, I've always talked about quality over quantity. The teams you want to see in this one have signed up, and there's not a whole lot of fat around here. And it seems like some of these incomplete teams could turn out to be pretty significant teams down the road as well. So there you go. In fact, as I look through this, I just now I see Starburst is playing as Starbust. Zero, Bagel, Ice, Ant, and Arashi. Okay, so that's not even close to the current starter or whatever. Still, sign up if you want to play in this one. If you don't, there's plenty of opportunities to watch and still talk about it. There's plenty of talking points for it. Also, if you are a team that is banned from Low Ink, we are closing the registration forms for High Ink this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have more than enough applicants. We're only taking 16 teams. Last I checked, we had 39 teams sign up for it, and at least 15 of them were Low Ink winners at some point. So if you still want to sign up, there's still an opportunity to do that. But keep in mind, we're only taking 16 teams. A lot more than 50% of the teams that signed up for it are not going to be invited to play, and they're going to go on Twitter. Just know that if you don't get invited to play in High Ink if you applied for it, the reason you didn't get it is because I specifically hate you. That's the only factor. This is literally just what teams do I like and what teams do I not like. That is the 100% determining factor is who is in and out of High Ink. Don't forget that. But if you're upset, make sure you let Brush know and not me. Today we are going to be previewing 20XX with Baja_Blast, who was on the last time that I talked about 20XX and previewed it. We're bringing them back on here and now. And by here now, I mean about 30 minutes from now. So all that and more. But first. Splatoon and IT, fair enough. The day is March 26th of this year. Do you guys remember what happened on that day? March 26, 2023. Starburst had just won another NA championship at a PAX event hosted by Nintendo. To say that they won that event is a bit of an understatement. They pretty much walked through it, and curb stomped every single opponent that they came across, including a grand finals where they played against a team called Sayonara and beat them 4-0 in grand finals in what was a very uncompetitive set, highlighted by a Game 3 Rainmaker and Undertow spillway where it was 5 minutes of of Starburst literally just spawn camping Sayonara and figuring out who's going to take the Rainmaker this time, as they've already scored like 99 points, and I don't think Sayonara scored once at all during that set. It was beyond uncompetitive and cemented Starburst at a record of, against teams in the West, 42 wins per matches, 0 losses. This was on March 26th of this year. The narrative at that time, from many people, including the host of this very podcast, was that Starburst was just not fair. Starburst was not on the same level. You had your quote-unquote low-level, mid-level, high-level, top-level, and then you had another 50 floors before you got to the floor that Starburst was in by themselves, and then you had another 50 floors and you had all the teams from Japan. But regardless, on that day, it seemed like this community was a solved game. It seemed like it was just Starburst was going to win every single time they went out and played, and there's nothing that was ever going to change that. Since then, Sayonara disbanded, Jackpot reformed, mainly Leafy and .Q from Sayonara, reformed Jackpot, brought in Jared from Destiny Bond and formerly of Starburst, and then acquired Madness via trade from Seafoam. In that trade, Jackpot got Madness, and Seafoam got to disband as a part of that. So a nice even trade across the board there. Now, eventually, that allowed for this the players of Seafoam to leave and eventually become a part of this new team called Moonlight. Basil, Shadow, and Nolan, who was subbing in for Seafoam at the end of their lifespan, combining with Omega to form Moonlight, which is a team we'll be talking about a little bit later. One of my favorite teams to talk about, actually. But something, as one team falls apart, something new rises from the ashes. Just kind of play musical chairs to create these new monsters, which is something we always gave credit for FT Win for being. A team that forced other teams to disband. Let's make a new team. Let's grab a player from that team that couldn't beat FT Win and a player from that team that couldn't beat FT Win. And let's see how well this nucleus works until we finally create something that can eventually beat FT Win. And that's kind of the same situation, rinse and repeat. Starburst creating new monsters until they finally create something that can rival them and knock them off the pedestal. But at this point, Starburst still 42-0 against teams of the West. Nobody can really touch them. Meanwhile, Alliance Rogue was also going through a little bit of an awkward roster change over themselves. Got rid of one of their players and didn't really have a solid replacement for their new, for their 4th spot that they were looking for. Ultimately, bringing in Volti as like a trial through. It wasn't like officially announced that Volti was a part of the roster later. But it is important to note that at this time, Volti was at least a part of Alliance Rogue. And that sets the stage a few weeks later, after the NA Championships, for a new test. Now that everything has settled, Starburst has proven their dominance yet again and forced everybody to reshuffle the deck. Let's get a new opportunity to test all these new pieces out. Enter the Ink TV Resurgence League. This league was in many people's minds, including myself, another cakewalk for Starburst to flex their superiority upon everybody. But when the dust settled in the Ink TV League, Starburst took their first and their second losses ever against teams outside of Japan, with Jackpot taking the championship of the Ink TV League and establishing themselves as a legit contender to win any tournament that they sign up in going forward. Since then, Jackpot added to their resume, winning a few Mode Cups here and there, a few more little majors here and there, and established themselves not just as a contender to win these tournaments, but as the ipso facto top team, undisputed top team in the West, cementing the spot in the most recent Nintendo tournament, PAX, another PAX tournament where they beat Crush Soda. Not Starburst, but Crush Soda in grand finals, cementing themselves as the new top team in the West. The Starburst era has officially ended, and now welcome in our new Jackpot overlords, as they are now dipping their toes into creating low-ink teams and making content and starting their own podcasts and making fun of every single team they beat along the way in tournaments in a hilarious way. I, for one, welcome our new Jackpot overlords. I think this is a kind of a fun time to be a part of the competitive Splatoon scene, especially cover it. The thing I found interesting, though, from the shift from the Jackpot, from the Starburst to the Jackpot era, was this tweet by Bran. And now, take some context of this here. When Bran tweeted this out, it was immediately after they just lost to Crush Soda on stream. The tweet reads this, quote, "Spent the last 2 years maintaining number one for almost no reward at all, and then spent the last month getting dodged in scrims by majority of high level. Thumbs up. Maybe 2 more PAX wins until I finally get to compete at Worlds. I love Splatoon." End quote. Now, context around this. Obviously, this is a salt tweet. But I think this is the most interesting tweet in the competitive Splatoon scene this year alone, because it gives so much insight as to what it's probably like to be at the top of the mountain. And I think there's some truth to that. There's obviously some frustration that so many Nintendo tournaments went through where Starburst just bitch slapped everybody they played against, where the prize was, I think, like a trophy, which is fine and dandy and all that, and they got to play at LANs, and that was awesome. But now, after 2 years of that, where they finally start to like, all right, we got other things we need to do, let's pump the brakes, we're taking this summer off or whatever, then that's when all of a sudden the Nintendo tournament is a trip to Japan with world championship implications on the line, and Starburst is so disconnected at that point that by the time they're ready to compete in that PAX West event, granted they did beat Jackpot to qualify for that PAX event, they get 3-0'd in the semifinal rounds by a Crush Soda team that Kyo left. Kyo now playing for Starburst to help them win that tournament. I can see where the frustration is coming from, but I think it's very telling, talking about how nobody wants to scrim us at the level that we need to get scrims at, and there's no real reward for us when we were the number one team. Which begs the question, if I could take that tweet and stretch it into something that Brand probably wasn't really intending, what is it like to be at the top of a scene like Splatoon, where it's not something that you can make a living off of, but there's still enough buzz around it to where people are going to talk about everything that you do? Before we get into that, though, I just want to point this out, because this is a key factor I think is going to hinder a lot of people from ever reaching that upper echelon of competitive Splatoon. If I were to show you guys this, a lot of you know what this is for real, but a lot of you can associate with this, because you look at this and you say, hey, that's me. This is Charmin Ultra Soft. And that is what a lot of you are. You guys are as soft as toilet paper when it comes to this one thing in particular. If you don't like being resulted and you can't handle people being excited when they beat you in a tournament, oh my gosh, there's no way you could handle things at the top level here. And I'm just being real. There's so many times when somebody beats a team that's banned from low ink, And then they go on Twitter and they're just excited about it. Hey, we beat these guys. This is awesome. 2-1, 3-0, whatever. Where that other team feels like, oh, but actually they need to respond and discredit the win and give an excuse for the win, or to try to be like, you just got lucky or whatever. Like, some people are just so Charmin ultra soft that they can't handle another team being excited that they beat them. A couple things I want to point out with this. Number one, it comes with the territory. Once you're banned from low ink, or even if you're like an alpha level low ink team, people are going to be excited when they beat you. It's fine for them to be excited. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, I will point out, if people are saying things like, oh, we beat these guys because they're washed or they're overrated, like, that's not cool. That's not you being excited about beating someone. That's you just trying to put somebody down after beating them, which says more about you than the team that you beat. If you think they're overrated or washed, why are you excited enough to tweet about beating them anyways? Like, nobody's getting excited and tweeting about teams that they feel like they're supposed to beat, right? So that is not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who just straight up say, yay, we beat these guys. This is cool. We are excited that we beat these guys. If you have a problem with a team doing that, you are Charmin ultra soft, and you're not going to advance much farther. That mentality is going to hold you back. And number two, I'm pretty sure the vast majority of people that don't like being resulted on Twitter resulted somebody on Twitter in the past. If you guys were to be in low ink and then you beat your chest about how you beat somebody that was banned from low ink, you don't have a right to then, when the tables are turned, complain about that, because you did the same exact thing. Because natural human reaction, you were excited about beating someone. That mentality, I feel, and I'm not just calling out one team. I'm calling out like 100 different teams in this. So don't just say, oh, he's talking about one team in particular. No, I'm not. I'm talking about pretty much everybody in chat at this point, if I'm being honest. But imagine you guys get resulted, even when you're not even in +3. You guys get resulted for what you do in a weekly tournament or in Proving Grounds tonight or whatever. If you're a top level team, though, if you're a Jackpot, an FT Win, a Starburst, and you lose one singular game, you don't have to lose a set. You lose one singular game. Take, for example, last Super Jump. Jackpot loses one game in the Saturday stage where, but Pop Gun, they're not using their main weapons. Okay, it still counts as an L. Those are the weapons they chose to bring in. Whether they were practicing those weapons or that makes it more fun for them, it still counts as a win for the other team. It's a footnote. It's not an asterisk. But Jackpot loses one game, and someone takes a clip of that and put it on Twitter because they're excited, as they're allowed to be. 500 likes. Instant 500 likes. If you guys can't handle losing a set in an SOS tournament, imagine what it's like losing one individual game in a set that you win, and that one individual game gets put on Twitter and it gets 500 likes. That is why I'm saying a lot of you couldn't handle this, because Jackpot gets technically resulted in every single tournament that they play in. FT Win gets fake resulted every time someone says quad on FT Win, and it's just a picture of that person falling into the ocean before they even kill anybody. It must be fun to deal with that. And that's why you see a lot of names, team names being changed and pickup names and all this stuff. And sometimes people using aliases in weekly tournaments because, you didn't beat me. You beat, Got Turkey or Get Turkey. I saw that team name pop up in Proving Grounds. I feel like, and that's fine. Like, I'm not going to knock anybody for like changing their names. Is it frustrating from everybody that a team called Pooh won Idle? Yes. If a name brand team won Idle, that's a talking point. Now you look at the players that were on Pooh and you're like, okay, cool. That's great. There's something to talk about there. But years from now, when somebody looks at Idle 3 or 4, whatever one it was, and they see Pooh won it, who cares? Same thing like paddling pool 200. The team that won that is just smiley face. Doesn't really say a whole lot about anything. So that's where the frustration comes from. But I don't blame anybody from doing that. I do it as well. Back in Splatoon 2, I would change my name for Solo Queue because I don't like it when people DM me on Discord GG after just playing a Solo Queue match. It's like, well, if I got a different name, you don't know it's me, you're not going to bother me. I can just play this game in peace. So I completely understand that. But from all of the pressure that's put on a top-level team to not just win, but they have to play perfect, because if they lose once, then it goes all over the place. It is something that everyone's going to be talking about. Wow, Starburst lost a game. And remember this? You remember when Starburst was undefeated in sets. There was the point in the Ink TV before the league actually started. There was the qualifiers. And it was streamed across 4 different channels at the same time. Dapple Productions, IPL, Ink TV, and Falco Splatoon Tourney channel. Every single match was streamed at the same exact time. And what you saw was when Jackpot or when Starburst was losing, like they would lose the first game to Nightmare or whoever. I think it happened a few times. When that happened, you saw the ratings live of all the 3 other channels plummet, and the ratings for the channel that Starburst was on skyrocket. And then Starburst would win 3-0. It'd be a 3-1 win. They dominate, and then it's over. All of a sudden, the channel that Starburst is on, their numbers plummet, and everybody else's rises up. When a team is at the top and they have the hint of losing, that draws all the eyeballs to it. Now, Starburst was a little bit different because they had that huge record at the time, and everybody wanted to be there to see the first time that they lost, which is why the most viewed video on Ink TV is the first loss Starburst got against Alliance Rogue, because at the time that was shocking. That was beyond shocking at the time. But that's, again, another thing. When you're at the top, it's not that you have people rooting against you. It's that you have a lot of people that are interested in the upset. People naturally root for the underdog. And for Starburst, for the longest time, I would argue nobody ever rooted for Starburst when they were the number 1 team. We rooted for them when they were going up against FT Win, when they were wrestling the trophy away from them. But once they became the clear-cut top team in the West, nobody rooted for them. And it's not because they hated them. It's because we want to see them lose. Or it's not that we want to see them lose specifically. We want to see somebody beat them. We want to see somebody else, the underdog, get the win against them. And I always said the only time Starburst would ever have somebody root for them at a LAN is if they were to ultimately play somebody from Japan, which hasn't happened. And it's not going to happen because Jackpot is going to be the team that's going to be at the LAN playing against teams from Japan at this point. But that's the kind of pressure you got to deal with when you are the top of the pack. So what is the incentive then, or what's the drive? What's the thing that motivates players once you're at the top to keep grinding in a community like this? And I want to make this clear. I'm not questioning the drive that players have. I'm more so questioning what is the incentive for them to keep grinding once they get to the top, knowing that from this point on, it's perfection or you've underperformed. No in between there. For Jackpot players, last week, it was kind of a rough weekend for them. They didn't win Idle. They got second place in that to a team called Pooh. And for the players that played in 4v4 Sundays on Sunday, that didn't really go that well at all either. Basically handing out +1 results left and right with how that tournament kind of worked out there. It seems like I saw Leafy tweet out at the end of Idle, we just need to practice a little bit more. Some frustration. I think maybe they're playing more Valorant than anything else, which so be it. The amount of time that players spend playing this game, and once you get to that top, as Brand is alluding to, less people are interested in scrimming you, and there's only a handful of teams that you can scrim against that are going to push you to get better anyways, since there's not many teams above you that you can push for that. What is the return of investment? What is it that players are striving for? It's not money. If you think the answer is money, just break down math at these things. Even if an event has a $1,000 prize pool, that's usually split out between 3 to 5 teams. And now that some tournaments are starting to look at, hey, maybe we should reinvest some of that prize pool back into the people who are actually creating the damn event to begin with, which is fantastic. And I wish there was more of a split of that than 25%. That still lowers the prize pool down. So if there's like $1,000 prize pool split out between 16 to 20 players, and it's tiered based off your placement, if you are on the team that wins a $1,000 tournament, you personally are probably taking home $100 to $200, probably less than $200, which is fine. You know, I'm not sitting here, $200 is nothing. It's a good chunk of change, and that's something. Especially if like it's a pretty cool flex to say that you've won money playing a video game, but it's not something you're gonna be even close to making a living for. And well, with where the economy is today, that money doesn't really go that far in certain situations. So it's not so much let's do it for the money, because the return on investment. And again, you have to play perfectly basically the entire time to earn enough money to make something significant. The return on investment's just not there. So I'm not convinced the money's the motivator. Here's what I'm convinced the motivator is. Because as Jackpot is the clear-cut number one team right now, I think they just want to be known as the best team of all time. I think they're just chasing greatness at this point. It's evident from the tweet they put out a couple of weeks ago when the Nintendo community rules came about, and everybody was reacting, knee-jerk reaction to it. Jackpot was tweeting out, if the community's dead 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now, we just want everyone to know we were the best team of all time. Don't forget about that. It's like, okay. We got you. You're going to be fine, by the way. Nobody's dying. But, yeah, we'll keep that in mind. You guys were pretty good. And I think it's kind of telling. If you look back at when Jackpot won the most recent Nintendo tournament, that was the first time those players had finally won that event. They've been playing in I don't know how many Nintendo events, but they've always been second fiddle or worse. It's always been the FT win or the Starburst that has won a Nintendo tournament of significance, not talking about those random one-off Turf War ones for backpacks and copies of arms. But this is the first time Jackpot finally does it. This is the years of work that they put in to reach this mountaintop. And Jordan Kent asked them this question. I want you to hear what Madness has to say in the answer to this question of basically, what's it like to be the best team in this tournament?
They were really rising to the occasion. They knocked out Starburst. They rally against you. What were you saying to each other as you got set for that Game 6?
It means so much to us. We've been practicing this whole summer to make it here, and to win it feels absolutely amazing. Our main goal was to beat Starburst since we lost to them last year, but winning the whole event, it's amazing.
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, we've been working for this whole time. It would have been nice to beat Starburst, though. That's kind of what we were kind of hoping for. I mean, we won this tournament. It's cool, but, man, really, you can tell. Now, you can't knock Madness for spur of the moment. You just accomplished all your dreams. Somebody's handing a microphone in your face. You can't just come out and say the most elaborate thing ever. But I think it's very telling that, hey, you just won everything. Yeah, but it would have been nice to beat Starburst one more time. I think that's all they're really looking for at this point. I think teams just wouldn't be known when this is all said and done as the best. And they'll play in I always said they'll only play in tournaments that have prize pools, because even if it's the worst run, dumbest idea tournament of all time, if it has a prize pool for it, you will see teams come out for it. And I don't think it's because they're that desperate to win the money. I think it's because they knew that other top level players were going to sign up for that tournament as well. They just want to beat each other. I think that's what the drive for is. And it's, as we've learned from Brand's tweet, it's lonely at the top. And it's difficult to stay alive at the top. Because while you're at the top, there are teams that are hungry, that are hunters, that are not scared of you guys anymore. For the longest time, the name FT Win meant fear. It meant an unbeatable opponent. And then Starburst was literally unbeatable for the longest stretch of time. And then Jackpot wrestled all of that away from them. But what we've been seeing, especially last weekend, as it's hard to be perfect at the top, and you got more and more players that are at the rung below them that really don't care about who they're playing against, and they just see them as a head they could put above their mantelpiece. You got a lot more teams that are hungry and ready to knock off some teams at this point. That makes things more interesting. That's why I think you've seen more parity as of late. The struggle to stay at the top versus all those teams that are hungry and not scared of the opponent that they're going up against, feeling like everybody's vulnerable at this point, and those two sides clashing at each other. That reason why is why I feel like 20XX is going to be worth watching this upcoming weekend. And to get some better perspective on that, let's take a little bit of a dip into our chat here. So welcome into the Popcast. Head TO for 20XX. Baja Blast. Baja.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing today? How's morale?
I am doing good. Was just doing preliminary seeding.
Preliminary seeding.
Or early seeding, more so.
Could you leak who you're where you're putting Starbust?
I guess 3. And the reason it's 3 is because I don't think that's their. I was looking at it and that's not their main roster.
Fair enough. Yes. Yeah. I just saw that they signed up as I was looking at this myself. But hey, so be it. Are you in +3?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been in +3?
If we're counting the first time I joined when it was made, if we're counting like I've technically been kicked 3 times, and I was in +2 for 4 months starting in April and then left in September.
Okay, so what is the drive to get into +3? Is it really as good a practice as people make it out to be? Because that's the narrative, is that, oh, I want to get into +3 so I get this access to these amazing scrims that I can't get anywhere else. Is that true?
I'm gonna tell you guys a little secret. Anyone who says that is lying. There is almost zero good practice in +3. In fact, right now, I don't think more than 20 scrims have happened in +3 since September.
Why do you think that is? Is it a Sindao queue thing, or was it like that before Sindao?
So half of it is Sendao queue because most people are pinging in there for Sendao queue. No one's doing pickup scrims right now because they want to play Sendao queue. The other half, I think, is that people who are serious about grinding, like let's use a good example is Zenith on Duck Motif now. That team's just gonna message a team if they want to scrim. They're not gonna ping in +3 at here +3 scrim and then get a pickup of 2 Tetra mains who can't play any other weapon, so one of them has to flex and sucks at zap. A pretty good charger main, and then some guy who wants to play sploosh the whole time. That's not good practice. Instead, they're gonna message. Last resort will generally scrim anyone who asks them as long as they have time. They'll message someone in +2, or they'll message a team that they fight every SOS instead.
If you were to vote for everybody that's eligible to be voted for in +3. How long does that take?
For most people, 5 minutes, because they're either gonna plus everybody or minus anybody. They're not actually gonna look at voting. If you're actually serious about voting, probably about 10 to 30 minutes in between, depending on how serious you are. Part of the issue is that if you're NA or EU, you don't know the other region unless you play both tournaments. Like, for instance, I can't play EU tournaments because I'm in NA and EU tournaments happen when I'm not at school. So I don't know how to vote for EU, for instance. I don't know who's the level in EU or whatever. So I'm probably just going to be nicer to EU than to NA and vice versa.
Well, how important is it to be known as a +3 or above player, though? Doesn't that give you like some sort of, like, if you look at a player and you see they are in +3, don't we think about that player differently than if they weren't in the plus server at all?
Yes, and I absolutely hate it because most +3 players don't actually deserve to be looked at differently. And I include that in myself as well. I don't think people should look at me differently for being in +3 or when I was in +2 either. And I guess part of it is like you were saying earlier, because I was watching a little bit of that. People want to result you basically. It looks really nice in my sendow.inc bio when I have 3-0 +3 pickup that formed last second. Like, regardless of the complications of the tournament, it still looks good no matter what when I have those results in my bio. And that's what people actually care about.
Have you seen yourself in other people's bios before?
Oh, absolutely.
What is that feeling like?
I personally don't care because at some point I'm like, oh, that was a good set. You know, I think I should look at it more of a, how did I lose this set instead of a making excuses for myself. I should learn from losing instead of trying to make an excuse for why I lost. But I think for a lot of people, it becomes a thing where like people don't care about you till you're in +3 suddenly. So it's like, oh, now people care. But when I was lower level or whatever, no one cared. But now they want to result me all the time. And I think that's where people get the frustration.
That's, and you know, again, that's fair enough. But I mean, I feel like at some point you're going to get resulted. Isn't it kind of, did you ever look at that and at one point and be like, oh, damn, this is kind of cool. I'm like in somebody's bio. Like someone thinks I'm worth being into like their bio or something.
I mean, yes, because I got into +2 off resulting a +1 player in an EU weekly, basically. That was that sole result that got me in. So when people are like, results are, I guess results that aren't first place don't matter, they're lying, first off. It's them trying to, I guess, be like, well, I got in by winning a tournament. Why are people getting into higher tier pluses off set wins? Because you'll always hear someone say, well, plus used to be harder back in the day. And there's truth to that. And then there's also not truth to that. I think the big thing is that there's just more plus level players now, but people don't want to cope with that, which is weird, and why you see voting not work out how it should.
Are you hopeful that you'll pass the 60%?
If I get kicked, I don't personally care. I haven't scrimmed in over 2 months. I don't really play comp, at least right now, at the moment. And as far as I can tell, just from looking, I don't think a lot of +3 players are playing comp right now either. I think most of them are at most hopping on Sendow Q or SOS, and that's about it. So I think what's going to happen is one of two things. It's either going to be everyone passes 60% because people are going to try to be too nice now and nothing's going to change, or over 60% of the server is going to get kicked. There's going to be 70 people left, and then the server is going to be dead, and then you're going to see 70 plus suggests for next plus cycle.
Before we get into the next question, let me build it with this. You beat Last Resort at Low Tide City this past year, and I recorded your guys' reaction. You were obviously pretty hype about that. What is that like the best win you feel like you've had? Or you kind of talked about you beat some top EU players before, but like how does that moment of beating a team like Last Resort at a LAN kind of stack with everything you've accomplished as a player?
I would say from like an accomplishment moment, that's probably my best, like personally, just because we were prepping for that set like that was the set we were hoping to win going into the LAN, because we figured, oh, we're probably gonna be seeded to play Last Resort. If we can beat Last Resort, then we have a chance of getting second at least, because we all knew we weren't gonna beat Starburst. Let's be real, at least back then. We didn't end up getting second, but that was the set we prepped for the most. Sorry, Chara. So that was a very much our prep time worked. In terms of, I guess, objectively, my better set win, it would probably be against I'm forgetting the team name. It was DivX #2 for the not this Ludi season, because no one in DivX played this Ludi season. The season before that, I can't remember the name of the pickup. It's April, Orion, Elise, and like someone else. I
Is
can't
it
remember
White
the name.
Noise?
Yeah, White Noise. Yes,
Yeah.
that was who I ended up beating, and that was what got me into +2. That set win ended up getting me my +2 above a 50%. So
But-
that was probably my objective best set win.
So as you do seeding, obviously for this event, when you're doing seeding, what do you care more about, placements or results? Because if I haven't looked at the Low Tide City one, but I would assume you guys beat Last Resort. That's a good result, but Last Resort probably finished ahead of you guys, which is a better placement. Like, is it like, which ones do you kind of care about more? Because it seems like I've seen more people talk about placements over results as of late.
I think placements is an iffy topic because there is nuance to it. Say, for instance, well, Last Resort got the same place as us, but let's say they got 4th,
Okay.
for instance, or someone else got 4th. I'm going to look at who they fought first, because they might have just had an easier bracket path. I'm not going to give someone credit if they get second, only losing to Jackpot, and then I check who they fought, and then they fought 3 low-ink alpha teams, which shout out to the low-ink alpha teams, but that doesn't count if you get second at that point, because and then I check Jackpot's route, and they were fighting Starburst, FT Win, some random Japanese top-level pickup. Like, I'm going to take the results at that point. But let's say, for instance, you only get 1 result and then get 33rd place. I'm not going to count that as much.
Hey, you know how good those low ink alpha teams are. I got people in my DMs telling me they should all be banned from low ink. That's
Oh, God.
those guys are some monsters there. You're not playing in Ludi this season.
No.
Do you miss it?
No. I played 1 Ludi season, I think, and my issue with Ludi isn't that I don't like to play in Ludi. My issue with Ludi is that scheduling makes me want to tear my hair out, and I would rather just not do that.
Fair enough. My thoughts exactly with something like that. So 2 weeks ago, the Nintendo Community Guidelines comes out, and we're all panicking, and it affects all of us a little bit differently. Low ink, we obviously destroy the registration numbers that they allow for. The CCA has specific school guidelines that would affect them. Your event is uniquely affected as well because you have a prize pool for it, and this time around some of that revenue does get kicked back to the organization. What was your initial thoughts? And I guess it should be noted, your tournament's going to be completely fine this time around because it's before
We're literally
the
right
15th.
before the
so,
thing. Yeah.
so this tournament doesn't affect anything. But what was your initial reaction seeing those community guidelines, and where is your mindset about them today?
So my initial thought when I read it, and it was I didn't, obviously it wasn't in English yet. My initial thought was this basically kills big tournaments, or at least to an extent it kills big tournaments, because like the guidelines said, there was a cap limit, and I assume the cap limit is per player, not per team, for team games. So even now, where we're not like at max signups right now, if I looked at the signups, if all the teams finished registering, we would break the cap. So we would have to go through their guidelines thing, not including the prize pool. So that was my big concern on like how can we run a tournament? Am I gonna have to cap the tournament? Am I just got to tell the 65th team basically you should have signed up earlier? Tough luck. Because we all know Splatoon players don't sign up for tournaments till the literal last second. In terms of now, after talking to my other TOs, after reading through their guidelines, after seeing Smash TOs and Splatoon TOs get their uh, licenses and stuff, I don't think it's that bad, and I think there's a very strict reason why they're doing this at this point, and I kind of agree with their reason.
So, any concerns about 20XX6 in the future, as far as like the legality of it, I guess?
I think it's mostly going to come down to how easy it is to get a license, because at least in Japan, it's apparently been very easy to get a license. So I don't know how North America, or I might have to register with EU technically, because Dapple's an EU. Or
You know, you might want to go with the EU, because the things I've been hearing rumors of is that, at least from the EU side of things, they really don't know/care. So
Yeah.
I think
I'm sure Alice will register us with EU just to have everything under one banner. So at that point, that might not matter for me, but for like NA orgs, like your IPLs, your MIT stuff, like your CCA stuff like that, I'm very curious how hard it's going to be for them to get a license, if at all, or
Hey.
if Nintendo's just going to tell them no license.
you know, we got Beta on IPL, who is from Europe. If it becomes super crazy, Beta's house is now the official address of IPL organization or whatever. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so what is your official? Okay, so you're the head TO for 20XX.
Mm-hmm.
What does the head TO of 20XX do?
So what I do is I try to bring out the actual date for the tournament. So originally, I'll spoil it now. This tournament has been delayed like 3 times. We originally wanted to run in like July, and then something else came up. Like half the TOs were busy, and then by then we wanted to run in August. But then it's like, well, Super Jump is right there at that point, so we might as well just let them run. And then also we had something for Squid Junction coming up in August, so we might as well have let them run as well. So at that point, we just moved to November. So I'm in charge of planning for that, making sure we have the starting prize pool ready, and then I'm also in charge of the map list this time as well, which was changed. Usually we run Squid Junction's map list. We decided to make our own finally this time instead, which is being run with Proving Grounds tonight, I believe, as well. I believe that's what they're playing today.
Yes, it's very easy for us to take someone else's map list and run it under the guise of, oh, we're helping you guys practice for this, knowing full well if somebody complains to me about the map list, I can just point them right back at you. Not that I think they will. I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter what maps you use, someone's going to bitch about it. And B, I feel like the vast majority of them are maps you see in other tournaments anyways.
The map list this time isn't even technically mine. If you're going to blame me, technically blame Jackpot and Chara, because those are the 5 people I talked to when making the map list. That was not my fault if you don't like a map. Secondly, Splatoon players don't like half the modes in this game, so I can't help any of you all. The only way I can make this good for you all is if I won all zones, and then I'm going to have someone else complain that they don't like zones. So no matter what, someone's going to be upset.
Okay, is Crack and Cheese really breaking Clam Blitz? Or is it just a case of, why are you letting the team get so much map control they can build up 3 power clams anyways?
I think it is a yes and no answer to that. I'm going to say yes, it does break Clam Blitz, because let's be real, sometimes you do just win a game. Like, if you're Jackpot, for instance, and you're winning for 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and then Little Timmy Brigade gets 1 crack and 3 power clams and scores right before overtime hits, and then they win. If I'm Jackpot personally, I don't think I lost that game because I'm the worst player. I think I lost that game because whoever coded this game needs to learn how to code better at that point. So at that point, yes, it is cheesy. But my other answer is, why isn't Jackpot just also running Crack and Cheese? Which I guess is part of why top players have a problem with that, because then they feel they have to run Crack and Cheese. And then everyone's cheesing, so now no one's having fun. But if no one's having fun, then technically isn't everybody having fun? In like their own weird way?
I don't think that works logistically. I think everyone's just miserable at that point. I think you're lowering the bar of what is is acceptable for humans to enjoy life. But I guess, yeah, if everyone's miserable, then it can't
Then
be that bad. Yeah.
yeah, you can't be mad.
um, so I've always praised 20XX in the past for being simple. I feel like there's a lot of times with these majors, TOs overthink things and make it out to be something it's not. You guys have always been group, top cut, all in Battlefy, stupid easy, all that stuff. This time around,
Or GG.
start DGG, double M groups, I believe.
So the WLM glutes, I will say now we will see. Just with how many signups we have. If we can't do that, we'll just probably move back to our old format. It's very easy to do that. For Start GG, the reason we are doing that, and this was something we talked about for months, this is also part of why we delayed, is it's easier on the TOs. And at some point, it became an issue of why should we make our life harder when I can make the player's life harder? No, I don't. Start GG is just very, very simple for seeding mainly, and for TO, like with our new bracket and stuff like that, if we do want to do stuff like that.
You're also doing the new splits of the prize, so where 25% gets kicked back to the TOs of the organization, 75 goes to the players.
Correct.
Has there been any negative pushback from that? From
if there has, I haven't seen anything on Twitter. I don't think I've seen a single player like say anything like, "Why aren't I getting 100% of the money?" This was also something that, again, with 20XX4 in the past, this was something we talked about because we realized at some point, like, our TOs are paying for this all out of pocket, at least for the initial prize pool again. At some point, we need to at least be able to. The idea, I guess, is that 20XX runs itself in terms of prize pool for the starting prize pool, at least. That would be the goal for, I'm sure, any major. I'm sure Super Jump, whatever MIT runs, would love for the tournament to fund itself. And there's been ways of people experimenting with getting the prize pool without having to go completely out of pocket. I know Splatoon 2 had Pay to Splat, which I think only the first one was ran relatively successfully. I don't know how people felt about Pay to Splat at the end. I wasn't really checking Twitter at that point. But I think the main point of this, and why I think most people understand, is that we want the TOs to not have to skip Starbucks or like go bankrupt basically to pay for a tournament. Like if one of my TOs, like if I was donating or Lip Blue was donating to the prize pool and was like, yeah, I can't eat now for a week because I'm doing this, I'm going to tell Lip Blue no, first off.
So is the idea to eventually, like 20XX number 6 is funded through other resources besides just somebody opening up a checkbook? That's a TO.
At least partly, yes. That's the idea. At some point, I would like for 20XX6, 7, or whatever to just fund itself.
You know, the whole pay to play aspect, I think you're right. I think that pay to splat thing that was run a couple of times, I feel like those went well for the most part. I guess the hesitation of doing it now is, how does this work with the new guidelines that just came out? Obviously, I think there's like several rules about that. But more so, like, who would play in something like that today? Like, if I know Jackpot's playing, if I'm like a Starburst or a team at that caliber, or maybe like a team right below that rung, you'll probably be interested in that. But nobody else, why would I give $5 or $10 just to get O2'd because I know that's what's coming? I guess that's where I kind of am at that.
And that's probably why the pay model at least doesn't work for online tournaments, because no one wants to pay $5 per person to get O2'd in 30 minutes and then go watch stream. Because at that point, I could have spent that $5 on McDonald's or something like that. That would give me more satisfaction. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And then it's just like, okay, well now the lag rules have to be perfect. Like the disconnect rule, like everything rule wise has to be perfect. Cause it's like, well, I paid $10 for this. You're telling me I lost this set because of this stupid technicality. It's like, So.
And like people always bring up, well, Smash Bros runs paid to enter tournaments. And I'm like, I don't know about Smash Bros online tournaments. The reason it works with Smash is because most Smash tournaments are local. And if I go O2 at my Smash local, I can still hang out in the venue and play friendlies for 3-4 hours. They're not going to be like, well, you can't do anything other than sit here. You're paying for the experience, I guess. And that's why people will pay to go to LANs and then get 05 or wherever, however groups works, because they're still paying for the vacation. They're still having the experience of seeing all their friends. You're not paying to get 05 and then leave. You're paying to get 05 and then have the best time of your life, basically.
Well, like Big House or Genesis, those tournaments are built for people to go 0-2 and smash, because as soon as you get knocked out at like 10 a.m. on Friday, oh, chess.com is here. They got a booth. Oh, there's all these different vendors. There's a literal arcade over here. Like you said, the experience. And with an online, like, yeah, pay to splat, that's cool because you can generate prize pool, but I could get the same experience playing in a Squid Junction, for free.
For free,
yeah. So I guess, but maybe that is the future, but I still feel like there's a lot of different things. Like, how do you make that different from a Squid Junction or something like that? Obviously you're doing seeding for this, putting your TO cap aside and your fan hat on, if you had to bet channel points today on who's going to win, Jackpot or the field?
I'm going to make a bold prediction and say if Jackpot wins, they're going to win from losers. They're not going to win from winner's side. And the reason I think that is I don't know how much they've practiced in the week since last week, but I'm going to assume that Alliance, Rogue, FT Win, Moonlight, Bet, Starbus, all these other teams have practiced more, almost.
So you're saying, you're not giving an exact answer there, but you're saying it's not going to be easy for Jackpot.
It's not going to be easy. I think they're still going to win, because what's probably going to happen is Jackpot's going to... What would happen, I would assume, is Jackpot wins or loses winner semis, winners finals, and then Leafy's like, wait a minute, or Leafy, Jared, Madness, Q are like, wait a minute, we're Jackpot. We're not supposed to lose this. We're NA champs. And then they play pissed off for the next 2 hours and win.
Have you ever played pissed off before? Like, do you know that kind of sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's that like? Do you feel like you play better in those kind of environments where you're just like, oh, hell no, I'm not losing this?
I think it depends how you channel it. Some people will get pissed off and then they play worse. If you channel it correctly, I think you play better generally, because then you're more, I guess, receptive to certain things. But I think it really depends on how you get pissed off, I say. If you're going to tilt, I don't think that counts as getting pissed off. When I say get pissed off, I more so mean like, let's focus up, clear comms, no joking, mid fight, only talk about the game, basically.
What is the team you feel like we're going to be talking about on Monday? Not so much the team that wins, but the team that really impresses everyone with how well they do. Like, who's the dark horse team here that's signed up so far? Bet?
Absolutely Bet.
They finished top. Did they finish second at 4v4 Sunday?
It was either 4v4 Sundays or I don't think it was 4v4 Sundays that they got second. Yes.
In the what's the roster for that again?
Cleffa, Pig, Delta, Lucina, and Power.
Okay, so there you go. That is your dark horse team. Where does Moonlight fit in the grand scheme of things? Because they're not doing quote unquote the meta right now, and we've always thought, Cherry Limeade's the poster child for things that are off meta. Isn't that Moonlight? And how good are they really?
So Moonlight, at least for preliminary seeding, again, this is subject to change. It might go up or down. They're actually ahead of Bet right now on 5th on my list. Moonlight, I think, is very, very hard to seed. And the reason I say that is because Moonlight is going to do one of two things. They are either going to beat all the teams above them spectacularly, and it is going to be very fun to watch, or they are going to lose to someone under them, and I'm going to be very confused.
How much of a factor was Idol's tournament in placing Moonlight? Because Moonlight, under their tournament guidelines, they don't have to change anything where everybody else does. Like, does that play a factor at all?
I think part of that's a factor. I also think that Moonlight isn't as off meta as people say, because if you look at like Chara put out a tier list this past week. If you look at Chara's tier list, most of Moonlight's weapons are in XS or at most A plus tier. They're all high tiers at worst. So they're playing stuff that's different. You're not going to see them one like a splatter shot, for instance. Probably you're probably not going to see Moonlight have V shot, but you're probably going to see them have a pencil, for instance.
Has there been anyone in your ear or any kind of people being vocal about this tournament should limit how many Zukas are present or eliminate special charge up or any kind of like restrictions that you don't normally see in other tournaments?
So we thought about that in the beginning of October. However, the meta sort of shifted, and that was always my thing. And like, we shouldn't limit the tournament because at that point, then the argument always becomes, does this really count? But people aren't really running what we were scared of. The main thing we were scared of is what happens when grand finals is triple shot pencil on both teams. Do we make fun of it? Do we like flash a picture of a triple clap machine on screen at the same time as the match starts? But people are running enough different stuff to where I don't think it will be an issue. I think the main thing that people aren't gonna like, I guess, is that expect most teams to have two of the 4 weapon slots be a V shot and a pencil, especially in top 8 cut. You're probably not going to see someone not run a pencil or a V shot. At worst, you're going to see them maybe not run V shot or pencil, but not run both.
Isn't it funny how when pencil was first a thing, we thought it was the worst weapon in the game, and when heavy edit came out, people were literally saying this needs to be nerfed day one. This thing is absolutely broken. Now those two weapons, well, like edit's not at the bottom, but it's not as broken as everyone's saying it is. And pencil is literally a top tier weapon. It's just a funny thing. I've just kind of noticed how our knee-jerk reactions to weapons usually changes once people be like, oh, what if we actually play it and see what this thing can do?
Yeah, the heavy edit stuff, I admit I also overreacted because obviously you're playing day one, you don't know how to play against it. You're like, man, I'm getting shredded by heavy edit. This is broken. And then now it's most weapons are longer range than heavy edit anyway, so you're not even interacting with it, I guess, at this point.
Where can people find you as we're kind of closing this out now? I know you got a lot of stuff you need to do.
So people can find me on Twitter. It is a different Twitter, actually. It's at Baha_Shiro, SHIOO. Sorry. If you wonder what happened to my Twitter, my older Twitter, don't worry about it. Other places you can find me. I'm gonna plug the Dapple Twitch. I might do commentary on there more going forward as I just move away from playing the game as much and want to focus more on TOing. And that's pretty much it, I would say right now, I guess.
Well, good luck to you specifically this weekend. If you guys have alias rules, don't enforce them. That would be my advice.
I'm just not gonna bother unless someone's alias name is like the worst thing possible. I'm not gonna bother enforcing the rule. Just at least make it easy on the commentators. Is my one ask. Please don't make your name some other player. Like I don't want to see Jackpot playing, and then I'm questioning why Pro Chara is playing with Jackpot when Pro Chara is in a different part of the tournament right now.
Well, good luck managing all of that, and hopefully you can enjoy the weekend as well. And thank you again for coming on and reaching out. This was I had fun during this, and I told you, I said let's just have fun today. I had fun.
Thank you.
And that was Baja Blast, the head TO for 20XX. Talked about a lot of things not related to 20XX. I want to do that more. Like, I want to get your guys' thoughts on things other than just what you're specifically there. So I was just like, am I really going to spend 30 minutes talking about 20XX? I was like, no, I wonder what Baja thinks about +3, being somebody that's in +3 or Ludi or the community rules or stuff like that. Fun stuff. I want to do more of that because there's more interesting people in this community than just me. And people have different experiences in this community than obviously I do. We need to start asking people more of those questions. I'm not going to rate anyone because my OBS has been really weird as of late, so I'm just going to end the stream. But I will say this, we'll do a recap episode on Monday of 20XX. Obviously, sign up is still open for this tournament until 1 p.m. Eastern time. If you want my take, Jackpot is going to win. I think as Baja mentioned, the anger factor, I would assume they took this week seriously, knowing that, okay, doing second place in Idle is one thing, but we can't finish second place here. I feel like they'll take care of business. And personally rooting for Moonlight just because I like them. I don't know. They seem like cool people. If you'd like to be a part of the podcast anyway, feel free to reach out. Social Blow, Twitter, Mr._Popgun, Popgun at Discord, Blue Sky at Popgun, and Twitter, Mr._Popgun. Good luck this weekend. We'll see you all on Monday. Get vaccinated, stay safe, wear a mask when applicable. Stop.